Okay, would like to call the Finance Committee meeting to order, please. And I just have to make an announcement. I've been told that in order for these microphones to work, they have to be pointed directly at you. If it's up too much like that, apparently it won't pick up the voice. So you have to kind of talk right into it. So with that said, this is just a gorgeous place, and I'd just like to wish everybody well and good luck, and the MTA good luck, and consolidating into this new into our headquarters. I think it's a great thing, and I'm sure we're going to be very successful in realizing a substantial sum and long-term commitment for our Madison Avenue building. And it's something that the Finance Committee, especially, and Jeff Rosen and his team have been working on for a long time. And I think this is just another way showing how we're trying to get every nickel out of our assets for our ridership. And this is a perfect example, this consolidation here into 2 Broadway. So I congratulate everybody, Jeff, your team, and good luck to the MTA in consolidating into its new headquarters. So the first item on our agenda is the approval of our minutes, please, of our January 20th meeting. May I please have a motion? Second, please. All in favor? Any opposed? Minutes are so approved. Doug, could you take us through the work plan?
Yeah, first we have, too loud. We have one public speaker today. Murray Bowden is here.
My name is Murray Bowden. I live in Hartsdale, New York. My birthday is June 11, 1933. I put that into the public record so there's no question as to who I am. I spoke at the Bridges and Tunnels meeting this morning and put them on notice that they are not following the Federal Highway Administration manual on uniform traffic devices in manner that is in their records that I have sent them previously, copies of which are in the New York State Department of Transportation's files as well. Their failure to follow the manual creates a liability, a financial liability for the MTA. If they repaint lines incorrectly and there is an accident there, they are now liable for suit because they have been notified previously of an unsafe condition and they have failed to correct it. I've spoken about this numerous times and gotten not too far. This time, the lawyers will pursue financial liability. There is no reason that these cannot be corrected easily. Others have. You are on notice. This is a public record, easily searched. And I will make sure that the first accident at a place that's identifiable previously, you get sued. The Finance Committee is now notified officially. Bridges and Tunnels is now notified officially. This is prior notification of an unsafe condition.
Doug?
That you do it?
Yep. Doug, now would you please do Budget Watch?
First, we're going to talk about the work plan. There's one change to the work plan. The independent accountant's audit and review report of MTA's 2014 financial statements will be presented to this committee as an information item in April 2015. Quarterly reports for the first, second, and third quarters of 2015 will be presented in June, September, and January 2016, respectively. It's expected that reporting cycle will continue going forward.
Okay, Budget Watch.
So, Budget Watch, this month's Budget Watch will focus on January operating results and February subsidy results, and it compares those preliminary results with the 2015 budget, which is included in the February financial plan, which you have received, and that's what we'll be comparing with going forward. Passenger revenue was $23 million, or 5.4% unfavorable, reflecting lower ridership attributable to adverse winter weather, including the temporary suspension of service on January 27th. New York City Transit had the largest drop-off. Its January revenue was lower than the budget by $22.4 million, or 6.6%. Long Island Railroad passenger revenue was lower by $0.8 million, or 1.5%. Metro North passenger revenue was lower by $0.6 million, or 1.1%. Again, that totaled $23.7 million, or 5.4% unfavorable. B&T toll revenue was $1.1 million, or 0.9% unfavorable. Expenses were $10 million, or 1.2% lower than budget. Lower costs for energy, fringe, and some timing delays were partially offset by higher weather-related overtime costs. Debt service costs were $3.2 million, or 1.4% favorable, due primarily to timing. Subsidies were a different story. They were much more positive. Petroleum business taxes receipts through February were $14.7 million, or 14.8% favorable. The payroll mobility tax through February was $7.6 million, or 2.5% favorable. Collections from the real property transfer taxes, considered as part of our New York City urban tax, were very strong in January and February. Overall, real estate transaction taxes were $32 million favorable in February. The year-to-date variance is $78.3 million, or 45.1% favorable. So overall, our budget watch results were very favorable. The only unfavorable was the January passenger and toll revenue because of the weather. The expenses were favorable, and the subsidies were overwhelmingly favorable in January and February. That concludes my budget watch.
Could I ask a question, Mr. Chairman, on that?
Sure.
Doug, do you have a figure that you know or can assume that the shutdown actually cost the agency?
We, at this point, we have not done that analysis. We have not completed that analysis.
Will you be making such an analysis?
Sure, we can do that. Yeah. Any other questions?
Okay, then Pat, would you take us into Finance Watch, please?
Sure. Good afternoon. Finance Watch is on page 20 of your committee materials this afternoon. The first thing to report is that on January 29th, we executed a 2.9 million gallon ULSD fuel hedge with the winning bidder being JP Morgan Ventures Energy Corporation. The all-in price for this fuel was just slightly over $1.80 per gallon. We did have other bidders on that, our normal bidders, Goldman Sachs and Merrill Lynch Commodities, Inc. The hedge begins January 2016 and runs through December of 2016. Beneath that, you see a detailed report on our most recent long-term fixed-rate bond issuance. This was the $850 million MTA Transportation Revenue Bond Series 2015A bonds. I reported on this at the last meeting, but I just wanted to have the statistics in here for the record on both sides of the transaction. Again, just to remind you, we issued $600 million in fixed-rate bonds and $250 million in floating-rate notes. And you see the statistics broken out for each of the two pieces and then on an aggregate basis there. All in TIC at 3.99% for the issuance, which was issued in very attractive conditions in the market at that time. Turning the page, we have just a summary of the remarketings. Again, I went through these and I won't go in detail here, but just to, again, for the record, we have the particulars. We had some banks that were exiting out of some TBTA variable rate bonds, and we had new banks come in, notably PNC Bank, Wells Fargo Bank, and TD Bank, and you see the pieces of the transaction that each of them took, and those will be continue in the market in variable rate mode. We have both weeklies and dailies, which again gives us good exposure in the market to the short-term short yield curve. Lastly, at the bottom of the page, we have $46 million of TBTA general revenue variable rate bonds, sub-series 2003 B2, and this was just a mandatory tender and remarketing. We converted from a weekly mode here into a term mode as floating rate notes. We went with a 4-year purchase date and we were very pleased with the results here. 67% of 1-month LIBOR plus a spread of 35 basis points, and that'll carry on for that 4-year period. Nixon, Peabody, and PFM were active on this transaction. Lastly, I just want to report that our next issuance of fixed-rate bonds will be the 2015B. These will be transportation revenue bonds. We have, you may recall, after Hurricane Sandy hit, we had issued bond anticipation notes, and those notes need now to be paid off. We have $200 million that were issued through Merrill Lynch and $100 million through KeyBank, and we're going to take those out now with the issuance of long-term bonds. We're set for pricing on March 9th and 10th and closing on March 19th, and we'll report on that at the next committee meeting. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them now. So, okay, that concludes Finance Watch.
Thanks, Pat. Doug, would you take us through the
Sure.
action items, please?
Yeah, we have for MTA headquarters and all agency items, we have 4 action items. I'll go through those one at a time. The first is board approval of service-disabled veteran-owned firms to serve as co-managers. We're asking the board to approve and qualify 2 municipal underwriting firms, Academy Securities and Drexel Hamilton LLC, for assignments in the role of co-manager on MTA, bond and note issues in connection with the MTA finance portion of approved capital programs, as well as for financing of special projects outside of approved capital programs. This approval will enable the MTA to continue to implement its financing program while also increasing M and women business enterprise and service-disabled veteran-owned business participation in its bond issuances. It is recommended that these assignments remain in place until the board takes action to appoint a new underwriting team.
Okay, so we need a motion, please?
Yeah.
A second, please? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is moved.
Okay, thank
Doug,
you.
go ahead.
The second one is to obtain board approval to add the law firm of Reed and Laniato LLP to MTA's panel of outside counsel.
Okay, a motion, please? Second?
Question on
Second's
this?
been made.
This is
Question? Oh, go ahead.
this is specifically just for this rate case? Is that the point of
Yes.
this? So the completion of this rate case, whenever it is, they are no longer on the eligible list? Is that the point?
I will say it's for the rate case or other energy-related matters that may come to our attention as we go through. We are in the process of looking at our long-term agreement through NIPA, and to the extent that we need specific expertise, we could avail ourselves of
Okay.
that as well.
Thank you.
Okay, so a motion and a second's been made. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is moved. Doug?
Okay. The third one is the mortgage recording tax escalation payments to Dutchess, Orange, and Rockland counties. It is recommended that the board authorize escalator payments totaling $1,182,000 to Dutchess, Orange, and Rockland counties from available funds on deposit in the MRT2 corporate transportation account.
Okay, motion, please. Second, please. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion's moved.
Thanks. Finally, the 2014 TBTA operating surplus. We seek approval of resolutions which will certify and transfer $637,553,000 of its operating surplus to the MTA and New York City Transit. Transfer $136,988 representing its 2014 investment income to the MTA. Deduct from operating revenues for fiscal year ending December 31, 2015, the amount of $26,382,000, which amount shall be paid into the necessary reconstruction reserve, and to also advance the 2015 TBTA surplus.
Second, please. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion's moved.
I'm sorry? That would be the MRT? That was mortgage. Okay. I can understand that.
Okay,
so-
go ahead,
I
Doug.
think we're good through the action items.
Right,
The
you
next, we have one report and information item, the February financial plan. This is really just taking care of the technical adjustments from the plan that you approved in December. So I'm just going to give you a little background on that. In order to highlight certain important items that are included within the consolidated November financial plan, the MTA captures them below the baseline as MTA plan adjustments. Also, some adjustments to expenditure forecasts in the November plan were derived after agency baseline forecasts were locked. With the board approval secured, these items, also referred to as MTA plan adjustments, can be appropriately allocated to the agencies and captured within the February plan. This process also gives the MTA and its agencies the opportunity to make technical adjustments to their budgets and forecasts, which will result in improved reporting. It establishes a 12-month allocation of the adopted budget for financials, utilization, and positions, which will be compared with actual results each month. So we've now, the March 2015 fare and toll increase that was captured below the line in November, we've now moved into the agency baseline forecasts. That is being delayed. The original intent was March 4th. Now I believe it's March 22nd. And with slight changes depending upon which agency. Those delays result in a one-time loss in revenue of $14 million. However, re-estimates of the specific fare and toll levels approved by the board result in slightly favorable revenues, $3 million, $5 million, $1 million. They pretty much offset each other. With regard to safety and service investments, there were some minor technical changes, mostly timing, very small. The IT consolidation, we had anticipated and included that in the November financial plan, but now we've actually moved it from the different agencies within, now it's included as part of MTA headquarters. There was a slight change regarding the New York State subsidy. In their 2015-2016 New York State executive budget, they have included $104 million of MTOA monies to fund the MTA capital program. Of that amount, $36 million represents an increase in total funding from what we anticipated, and $68 million is being redirected from MTA's operating budget to its capital program. So to offset the reduction in operating funding, the MTA will reduce its 2015 committed to capital contribution by an identical $68 million. The takeaway here is really there's a total increase of $36 million in MTOA funding that won't impact our operating budget, but it'll be used to help fund the capital program. Some additional technical adjustments to the plan includes some very minor adjustments that impact expenses and subsidies that are now incorporated into the baseline. They're basically differences in timing, some minor error corrections, and some re-estimates with very, very little impact to the bottom line. You can see the reconciliation included within the February financial plan book right up front. We still include several items below the baseline. The fare and toll increase that's anticipated for March 1st, 2017, those dollars will still remain below the baseline until the board approves whatever we do at that time. And we still assume some savings targets that we're working on now, including increase savings of $50 million a year starting in 2018. Those will also remain below the line until they're fully identified and implemented. So as a result of all these technical adjustments, year-ending cash positions have changed from the November plan. The plan is projecting year-end cash balances of $158 million in 2014, $47 million in 2015, $102 million in 2016, and $10 million in 2017, with a projected cash deficit of $305 million in 2018. Basically, this represents no net change through 2016, with a little slightly modest improvement in 2017 and 2018. So there's really not much of a story to the February plan, but it is the official budget, and it's the plan by which we will be reporting this year. That's all I have on the plan.
So, should the state legislature and the governor in their negotiations change what is in the executive budget, we will then have to go back, and assuming that affects us in some fashion, we will then have to go back and amend our budget to reflect those changes if the numbers change.
If that were in fact to happen, that would be something we would do for the July financial plan.
Right,
Yeah.
but we would have to do it at some, we
Yeah.
have to do it at some point.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep. Sure.
Okay, Doug, would you take us into the procurements, please?
Sure. We have 5 for headquarters, competitive procurements for headquarters for a grand total of $1,778,000.
Okay, a motion, please. Second, please. All in favor? Opposed? Done. Go ahead, Doug.
Sure. Okay. For the Metro North Long Island Railroad Committee, there's 1 non-competitive sole source procurement for Long Island Railroad jointly with Metro North for a grand total of $286,500,000.
Motion, please. Second, please. All in favor? Any opposed? So moved.
Moving to New York City Transit MTA bus operations, we have 1 action item. For New York City Transit, requesting board approval to accept the assignment of a contract between the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey and Judlow Contracting for the rehabilitation of the Cortlandt Street No. 1 line station in the amount of $69,658,000, and also to approve the issuance of a modification to the contract in the amount of $31,492,000.
Okay, motion, please. Second. All in favor? Any opposed? So moved.
Okay, for New York City Transit procurements, there are 4 for a grand total of $10,752,000. We have 2 non-competitive procurements totaling $9,436,000. Then we have 2 competitive, that was 2 non-competitive. We have 2 competitive procurements, one being a modification to a multi-agency contract that the LIRR was a lead on for New York City projects, New York City transit projects, and MTA capital construction in the amount of $1,315,000. And lastly, we have is a request. We're requesting approval to use an RFP process to procure a new fare payment system. And Steve Plachaki is here from Transit to talk about
Steve,
that.
I know that you spoke about this at the transit meeting, but just a quick overview for the finance members that were not at transit, would you please, on the RFP?
Absolutely. I'd like to highlight an item. It's the authorizing resolution for New York City Transit's new fare payment system. The board is requested to approve the solicitation of the contract by use of a competitive request for proposal process rather than utilizing a sealed bid process. The purpose of the project is to replace the existing MetroCard system, which has been in place since 1997. The new system will include a front end utilizing contactless readers that customers will utilize to enter the system, and a back end that allows the customers to create and manage their own accounts, and will also support financial functions including payment processing and other back office functions. It's desired that the system be adopted by other agencies, the extent to which is feasible, particularly MTA, as well as other transit agencies in the region. New fare payment system technology will allow bus and train customers to pay fares with a contactless bank card, smartphone, or unbanked customers utilizing an MTA-issued smart card. Given the complex nature of this project, it is in the best interest of MTA to utilize the RFP process, which will allow consideration of factors other than price, such as experience on similar projects, technical expertise, creative approaches to the work, and financial offerings in order to determine which proposal offers the best overall value. In addition, the RFP process allows New York City Transit greater flexibility to negotiate contract terms and conditions that could potentially result in lower overall costs of the project while achieving MTA's requirements. Once the procurement process is successfully completed, we would come back to the board with an award recommendation for board approval.
Okay, so we need a motion, please. A second, please. All in favor? Any opposed? Motions are moved.
Okay, there are no items for bridges and tunnels. There are no items for FIMTAC. So we would move the meeting over to the real estate portion.
Okay, Jeff, go ahead.
Thanks, Andrew. Let me say that with the commissioning of this conference facility, we've now fully completed our move of HQ down here. Thank you for your recognition of that, Andrew. The bulk of us are down on the 4th floor, which is comfortable but built to modern standards, and we've fit in there well. In the last month, we've also had the first wave of folks moving from Madison Avenue over to the Gray Bar building, and we'll be finalizing that process for the police and the executives of Metro North within about a month, and then we will have fully emptied that building. So we're very proud of that. I'll say there have been a lot of people who have had a hand in looking at the asset management aspects of this, and a great many who have been working on the capital construction side. I've mentioned Tony Fabrizio and Steve Perillo before. I want to give them another round of recognition, but I also would be remiss if I didn't mention that the person who's had the overview of all of this is Kathy Rinaldi, who until recently was Tom's chief of staff, this certainly would not have happened without her efforts. We have 4 action items for your consideration this month.
Jeff, before you do that, I just want to say that at the April meeting, Jeff is going to come back. We've talked about this about, what was it, Jeff, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, we set out on this realization project, let's call it, for real estate. And Jeff, at the April meeting, is going to give us another review where we stand on properties and other activities that are ongoing now to realize as much as we can out of our real estate assets that the MTA enjoys. And Jeff, you've done a really good job with this thing, and I think when you get the report in April, you're going to see that the voyage that we started out 4 or 5 years ago has really accomplished a heck of a lot, thanks to Jeff and his team. And there's more work to do. And I believe at the next meeting, you're going to even see some more fruits of the work. So it's an ongoing process, but we will have a review at the April meeting, Jeff.
Thanks, Andrew.
Go ahead.
In the meanwhile, we do have 4 action items this month. They're summarized in their books. Unless there are any questions, I would ask for your authorization.
Okay. A motion, please? A second, please? All in favor? Any opposed? Real estate items are moved.
Thank you.
And now we need a motion, please, to adjourn the Finance Committee meeting. A second, please. All in favor? I'm sure there's no objections, and we'll see you on Wednesday. Thank you, everybody.